Let me talk to the wounded, the waiting, and the wondering. You ever feel like your life has been stuck in a waiting room? Like you've been sitting on the sidelines watching everyone else get their breakthroughs, their miracles, their moments, while you're stuck in the background, holding your breath, praying for something to finally shift. Let me tell you something right now. God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste seasons of silence. He doesn't forget the ones who stayed loyal even when life felt unfair. You may not realize it yet, but everything you've been through has been preparing you for the greatest season of your life. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. There are signs, oh yes, there are signs, that the next chapter is going to be the most powerful one yet, but sometimes we miss them because they don't come with fireworks or applause. They come quietly, in the storm, in the silence, in the shifting. So let me give it to you straight. Number one, you feel unusually restless. There's a moment in every person's life when the air around them feels heavy, not with defeat, but with anticipation. You wake up one day and suddenly, the things that used to fulfill you, the people you used to vibe with, the places you found comfort in, they just don't feel the same anymore. You can't explain it to anyone, not even yourself. You're not angry, you're not ungrateful. You just feel this stirring, this uneasy feeling in your spirit like something's off, but not in a bad way. It's not fear, it's not sadness, it's something deeper. You're not broken, you're becoming. What you're feeling is restlessness, not because you've lost your way, but because your spirit senses what's coming. It's like your soul already knows there's a new level you're about to enter, and it refuses to stay comfortable in a place that no longer matches your potential. And maybe you've tried to ignore it. You've tried to brush it off, telling yourself, I'm just tired, or maybe I need a vacation. But deep down, you know it's more than that. You're outgrowing the skin you've been living in. You feel disconnected from your surroundings, not because you're ungrateful, but because you're evolving. That's the thing people don't talk about. Growth doesn't always come with smiles and high fives. Sometimes it shows up as discomfort, as restlessness, as sleepless nights wondering what's next. Your heart keeps whispering, there's more for me, and your mind can't shut it off. That's not coincidence. That's the inner GPS of your destiny saying, get ready. And you don't need to explain it to anyone. You just need to listen. Sometimes that restlessness comes with a sense of guilt. You feel bad for not being satisfied. You wonder if you're just being ungrateful. People around you are content, they seem happy with where they are, and here you are, looking around wondering why your spirit won't let you settle. But hear me loud and clear. You are not wrong for wanting more. You are not selfish for feeling like you're called to a higher place. Your discomfort is divine. It's a signal that you are approaching the edge of something greater, a higher level of purpose, a more aligned season. You're not crazy, you're not confused, you're becoming awake. And it's in that awakening that you begin to see clearly what no longer belongs in your next chapter. The job, the relationship, the habits, the mindset, all of it starts to feel small. That's because the space you're standing in now cannot contain the person you're growing into. You might find yourself walking through your day surrounded by the same people doing the same things, but it all feels different, off, like you're a stranger in your own life. That's because the frequency of your life is shifting. You're no longer resonating with what you used to. And that's okay. That's not weakness. That's alignment. Don't rush to fill the void. Don't run back to what used to feel comfortable just to avoid that silence. Restlessness is where clarity is born. It's in the waiting, the silence, the stillness that you hear the voice of purpose loudest. You don't need all the answers right now. You just need to trust that this feeling isn't random. It's sacred. It's a call to action, a signal from the universe or God himself, whispering, you were made for more. The people around you might not understand, and that's okay too. You're not on their path. You're not called to their mission. Your timeline is different. Don't let someone else's comfort zone talk you out of your calling. You might be feeling agitated, like you're running in circles, like no matter how hard you try, things aren't moving the way they used to. That's not failure. That's friction. And friction always shows up before forward motion. You're building pressure, momentum, energy. The best seasons of your life don't start with a bang. They begin with a shift in your soul, a divine discomfort that tells you this place is too small for your purpose. So if you're feeling that restlessness, don't ignore it, honor it, let it lead you. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, not because you're about to fall, but because you're about to fly. You can feel the wind, sense the height, but your feet are still on the ground. That tension, that tightness in your chest, that's a tension of transition. You're no longer where you were, but not yet where you're going. And it's in that middle space where things feel messy, uncertain, even scary, that the greatest transformations happen. Your old life is falling away, piece by piece. But what's being built in its place is stronger, bolder, and more you than ever before. Restlessness isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's the start of a new alignment, a deeper purpose, a fuller version of who you're becoming. The problem is we live in a world that tells us restlessness is bad, that if we're not content, something is wrong. But listen, you weren't born to stay stagnant. You were born to grow, to expand, to evolve. Seasons change, people grow, dreams evolve, and when your soul starts to outgrow your surroundings, that's not discontent, that's destiny knocking at your door. Don't confuse divine discontent with failure. What you're feeling is preparation. You're being set apart for something that can't be built on yesterday's foundation. You're being moved, molded, refined. And yes, it feels uncomfortable, but it's also beautiful. Sometimes the restlessness feels like an itch you can't scratch. You scroll through your phone, you binge watch shows, you fill your days with noise, trying to quiet that internal nudge that says, there's more for you than this. And deep down, you know it's not about money or fame or validation. It's something deeper. It's not about doing more, it's about becoming more, becoming aligned with who you were created to be. Restlessness is your soul trying to break free from the box the world placed you in. You're not crazy for wanting to break routine. You're not weird for craving solitude, depth, meaning. That's your future self pulling you forward. Don't ignore the call. And yes, it's going to feel lonely sometimes, because growth is often a solitary journey. When you feel restless, you might also feel isolated, like no one around you truly gets it. That's because you're not on a common path. You've been called to uncommon purpose. And sometimes God will pull you away from people, places, and patterns so he can whisper what he needs you to hear. That's what this season is, a sacred pause, a divine separation, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He's doing something new in you, something powerful, something lasting. And the restlessness you feel is the pressure that precedes release. So what do you do when restlessness hits? You don't run from it. You lean into it. You get still. You get honest. You start asking the deeper questions. You look at what in your life no longer serves the version of you you're becoming. What are you tolerating that you were never meant to carry? What conversations, commitments, and mindsets are weighing down your wings? Restlessness is the signal to reevaluate, to let go of the unnecessary, to create space for the miraculous. It's the invitation to declutter your spirit, your relationships, your priorities, so the next level of your life can find you prepared. And the truth is, the enemy of your next level is not failure, it's comfort. You've gotten good at surviving in spaces that were only meant to be temporary, but that temporary place became a habit. And now God is unsettling your spirit, not because he's cruel, but because he loves you too much to let you settle. That inner discomfort is divine disruption. It's the shaking before the shifting. It's the break before the breakthrough. So don't numb it. Don't dismiss it. Don't minimize it. Feel it. Face it. Follow it. Because that restlessness might just be the very proof that your greatest season is right around the corner. When you feel restless, don't ask what's wrong with me. Ask what's birthing inside me. Because that's what this is. A birthing. A labor of transformation. And just like birth, it comes with pressure, with pain, with pushing, but also with promise. You're not lost, you're in labor. Something incredible is coming, something you've never seen before. That's why it hurts. That's why it's hard. That's why it feels like you can't stay where you are, because you can't. Because the next level of your calling, your character, your life is waiting for you to move. So if you feel that restlessness, let me tell you right now, it's a gift. Don't run from it. Don't despise it. That uneasiness, that discomfort, that desire for more, that's heaven's alarm clock waking you up. That's your divine assignment, knocking at the door of your soul, saying you were not meant to stay here. You were built for mountains, for movement, for meaning. And everything in you is rising to the occasion. So when the world tells you to sit still, to be satisfied, to be safe, listen to your restlessness instead, because it just might be the first sign that you're standing at the doorway of the best stage of your life. Number 2, you've experienced unusual loss or separation. Sometimes life doesn't whisper, it shouts. You wake up one day and everything you thought was stable suddenly starts falling apart. That relationship you thought would last forever ends without warning. That job you gave your soul to, gone. That friend who felt like family, silent. And the hardest part, you didn't see it coming. You're left there sitting in the aftermath trying to piece together what just happened, wondering what you did wrong. But hear me when I say this, not all loss is punishment. Some losses are preparation. You didn't lose those people or that position by accident. Something bigger is unfolding. God doesn't remove without reason. And while your heart might be breaking, your spirit is being rebuilt. That separation isn't to hurt you, it's to shift you. And I know right now it might not feel like a shift, it feels like a storm. You feel blindsided, confused, alone. But what if that loss was the very thing that needed to happen to get you where you're supposed to go? Sometimes God has to take away what we think we need to give us what we truly need. You see, when people walk away, when doors close, when comfort crumbles, it's often because your current situation is no longer aligned with your future destination. God is not punishing you, He's protecting you. That person couldn't go where you're going. That job wasn't big enough for your calling. That connection was draining you more than feeding you. And instead of you choosing to walk away, the universe or God Himself chose for you. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Let's be real, it hurts. Because we are wired for connection, we crave consistency. And when something we've grown used to is ripped away, it can feel like we're being stripped of our identity. You start questioning everything. Was I not enough? Did I mess up? Why did they leave? But I need you to shift your mindset right now. Stop asking why they left and start asking why they were there in the first place. What did they teach you? What did you learn from the experience? Because every person, every situation, every loss, it all served a purpose. Sometimes the purpose is just to show you your own strength, to remind you of your worth, or to clear the path for what's next. And let's talk about the kind of loss nobody sees. The silent losses, the ones that don't make headlines. The loss of motivation, the loss of connection with yourself, the loss of joy and things you used to love. These quiet losses, they matter too. They're not always visible, but they're felt deeply. Sometimes God allows a spiritual emptiness to occur, because He's about to refill you with something fresh. You're not being abandoned. You're being repositioned. You're being emptied, not because there's nothing left for you, but because what's coming is too big for the old container. He's making room. So if you feel like your world is falling apart, maybe it's actually falling into place. The hardest part of unusual loss or separation is the feeling of isolation. You look around and suddenly, the people who used to text you every day are gone. The invites stop. The support vanishes. And you're left thinking, did I imagine all those connections? Was it all fake? But let me tell you, sometimes God isolates you not to punish you, but to elevate you. He needs your full attention. He needs your heart undivided. Because when the noise stops, when the crowd clears, that's when you can hear His voice the loudest. That's when you finally realize what you thought you needed was actually holding you back. Now here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people were only assigned to your life for a season, not a lifetime. And when that season ends, clinging to them only delays your growth. That relationship that fell apart, it might have been built on the old version of you, and now that you're evolving, it simply can't survive in your new season. And yes, it stings, because your heart was all in. But the truth is, some losses are just divine redirections. God saw what you couldn't, heard conversations you weren't in, knew intentions you ignored. And so he stepped in, not to break your heart, but to save it. Don't confuse separation with rejection. Just because someone walked away doesn't mean you're unworthy. Just because something ended doesn't mean you're not valuable. Sometimes the separation is the proof of your value. Because the higher your calling, the more selective your circle becomes. God doesn't let just anyone walk with kings and queens. So if you're being separated, trust that it's not because you're lacking, it's because you're rising. And not everyone can breathe at your new altitude. Some people needed you when you were insecure. They loved the version of you who didn't know their worth. But now that you've grown, now that you've awakened, they can't handle the real you. And maybe, just maybe, you're still grieving someone or something that wasn't even meant for you. Maybe you're mourning a version of your life that was too small for your destiny. Think about that. Sometimes we get so attached to a thing, a person, an outcome, that we forget our identity doesn't come from any of it. You are more than your relationship status. You are more than your career, more than your circle, more than your achievements. When something leaves your life unexpectedly, it's not the end of you. It's the beginning of a new version of you. A stronger, wiser, more anchored version. The separation revealed who you are, not who you were. But let's not pretend that makes it easier. Healing from loss is a process. Some days you'll feel empowered, other days you'll feel shattered, and that's okay. Healing is not linear, it comes in waves. You don't need to be strong all the time. You don't need to pretend it doesn't hurt. You just need to keep showing up, keep breathing, keep trusting that even in the loss, something is being built. That pain you feel, that's the stretching of your soul. That ache, that's the space being created for something new, something better, something designed for the new you. Stay open, even when it hurts, because every ending is the soil for a beginning. And here's what I know for sure. When God allows something to be removed from your life, he never leaves you empty-handed. It might not come back the way you expect. It might not be wrapped in comfort. But what he brings in its place will always be better aligned with your purpose. It will speak to your soul in ways the old thing never could. And yes, it takes faith, it takes trust, it takes surrender. But when you release what's gone and embrace what's ahead, you step into a freedom you never knew was possible. A freedom where peace is your compass, where you stop chasing what left and start preparing for what's next. So if you've experienced unusual loss or separation recently, take heart. You're not being punished. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. You're being chosen. Chosen to walk a path that demands your full strength. Chosen to carry a purpose that can't be distracted by what's behind you. Chosen to rise when it would be easier to stay down. And yes, it hurts. But pain is often the evidence of pruning, and pruning is always a precursor to fruit. So stay rooted, stay faithful, keep growing, because what was taken will never compare to what's coming. The separation was necessary. The loss was holy. And your next season, it's going to make sense of every tear. And when it does, when that next season arrives, you'll look back and understand why it had to happen the way it did. You'll see that what you thought was breaking you was actually building you. That the loss was actually a launch. That the goodbye was the gate to your greatest growth. You'll realize you didn't lose anything that was meant to stay. And everything that walked away only made room for what was always meant to find you. So trust the process. Don't curse the separation. Honor the loss. And walk boldly into what's next, because what's ahead of you is far greater than what's behind you. Number 3, you're craving peace more than applause. There comes a time in life when the noise just stops mattering. When the likes, the praise, the validation, it all starts to feel empty. When your soul starts whispering something that your ego doesn't want to hear. I don't need them to clap for me, I just want peace. That's when everything begins to shift. Because when you stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment, you've entered a new level of maturity, a new level of growth. You're not looking to be seen anymore, you're looking to be settled. Settled in your spirit, settled in your values, settled in who you are without needing anyone else to confirm it. That craving for peace, that's not weakness, that's strength finally speaking. And don't let this world fool you. Chasing peace isn't quitting. It's not giving up. It's leveling up. Because it takes courage to stop performing. It takes wisdom to stop proving. It takes power to walk away from the noise and say, I don't need the world's attention. I need God's direction. You're tired not because you're lazy, but because you've been carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. You've been trying to be everything for everyone. But now your soul is saying, enough. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them misunderstand you. You're not here for applause anymore. You're here for purpose. You see, applause feels good, but peace lasts. Applause is temporary. One moment they love you, the next they forget you. One mistake and the same people who clapped will start to criticize. That's why chasing validation will leave you exhausted. But peace gives you breath. It quiets the war inside you. It doesn't need an audience. It's a reward that lives within. And when you reach that point, when peace becomes more valuable than popularity, you know you're about to step into the best stage of your life. Because that's when you're not moved by noise. That's when you stop running after everything and start attracting what aligns with your spirit. And let's be real, this shift doesn't happen overnight. You used to live for approval. You wanted the followers, the likes, the affirmation. And for a while it worked. It gave you a high. But then something changed. The applause stopped filling you. You smiled on the outside, but felt empty inside. You began to realize that validation isn't the same as love. And acceptance from the world doesn't mean you've accepted yourself. So you turned inward. You started to say no more. You got quiet, you got still. And in that stillness, you found something better than applause. You found yourself. That's why peace is so powerful. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform. Peace walks into a room and says, I'm not here to impress them. I'm here to exist. And that's where you are right now. You're in a season where less is more. Where silence is healing. Where privacy is protection. You don't want the spotlight, you want security. You don't want noise, you want nourishment. And the people who don't understand that, they're still chasing the crowds. Let them run. You've outgrown that race. Your race is internal now. It's not about who sees you, it's about how you see you. You're starting to realize that peace costs nothing, but it's worth everything. You can't buy it, and no one can give it to you. It comes when your soul is in alignment. When your mind, your heart, your actions, they all agree. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to explain yourself. You just need to be authentic. That craving for peace, that desire to unplug, to breathe, to let go of all the performance, that's God calling you back to you. That's a sign, a signal that your next season won't require applause. It will require stillness, intention, and a deep, unshakable calm. Here's the truth. When you really start craving peace, you start losing interest in drama. You stop picking up every phone call. You stop showing up for every argument. You don't respond to every attack. Because peace makes you selective. Peace gives you vision. You realize that every battle isn't yours. Every opinion doesn't deserve your energy. And silence becomes your weapon, not because you're weak, but because you've grown. You've learned that peace protects your power. It guards your growth. And if keeping your peace means losing some people, so be it. If it means turning down opportunities that don't feel right, so be it. Your peace is non-negotiable now. And let me say this. When you choose peace over applause, you might lose the crowd, but you gain your clarity. You gain your confidence. You gain your calling. Because when you no longer need people to clap for you, you finally hear the voice inside you that was drowned out for so long. That voice that says you're enough. That voice that says keep going. That voice that doesn't need an audience because it's coming straight from the source. And that voice, that's the compass for your best stage yet. That's the GPS to your real life. That's the inner fire that doesn't flicker when the world grows cold. It's funny. When you chase applause, you think it'll make you feel whole. But all it does is make you dependent. Dependent on approval, dependent on perception, dependent on what they think. But when you choose peace, you become whole all by yourself. You walk differently. You speak differently. You show up in rooms not needing to be the loudest, but knowing you're the most grounded. That's what makes this next stage of your life so powerful. You're not coming with noise, you're coming with depth. You're not bringing hype, you're bringing healing. You're not here to perform anymore, you're here to be. And you know what else happens when you choose peace? You start attracting differently. People who match your energy, opportunities that match your values, relationships that don't drain you but pour into you. Because when you stop faking, the real begins to find you. Peace strips away the counterfeit so the authentic can rise. So if you're feeling this craving deep in your bones, a hunger for solitude, stillness, truth, that's your soul preparing you for what's ahead. You're shedding the performance, shedding the people pleasing, and stepping into your most powerful season yet. One that doesn't need applause to feel complete. So if you find yourself craving peace more than attention, if you'd rather be alone than surrounded by shallow noise, if you're more drawn to quiet than clout, that's not a breakdown. That's not depression. That's elevation. That's your spirit maturing. That's your heart saying, I'm done with the show. You've outgrown the performance. You're no longer a puppet to public opinion. You're becoming something rare, something rooted. And what's ahead of you doesn't require a stage, it requires stillness. So lean into it, embrace it, let peace lead. Because when you finally stop needing to be seen, that's when God starts revealing exactly who you are. Number 4, you feel deeply alone, even in a crowd. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from isolation. It comes when you're surrounded by people. Smiling faces, laughter, conversations. And yet deep inside you feel invisible. You nod, you talk, you play your part, but something is missing. You walk through the noise of the crowd and your soul whispers, nobody here really sees me. It's a quiet ache, a hollow space in your chest that no applause can fill, no crowd can heal. That loneliness, as painful as it is not a curse, it's a signal. A signal that you've outgrown surface connections. A sign that your soul is craving depth, craving meaning, craving something real. That deep loneliness you're feeling, it's not just sadness. It's not something wrong with you. It's your spirit evolving. It's your inner self shedding the shallow so it can reach for something deeper. You're not looking for people who just like the idea of you. You're looking for people who understand your heart. That's why surface conversations feel exhausting. That's why you walk away from parties feeling more empty than when you arrived. Because you weren't meant to fit in anymore. You're not being rejected, you're being redirected. And that loneliness, that's the space being created so that real connection can find you. When God starts to shift you, he often isolates you. He removes the noise, the distractions, even the people you once leaned on, not to punish you, but to prepare you. That ache of being alone in a crowd is his way of saying this next chapter is going to require a deeper version of you. And not everyone can walk with you there. So he separates you. Not physically, but spiritually. You're still in the room, but you're no longer of the room. You're no longer tied to the energy that drains you. You're searching for alignment, not attention. For purpose, not popularity. For connection, not company. And let's be honest. It hurts. It's hard to feel unseen when you're given everything you've got. It's painful to feel unheard when your soul is screaming. But in that space, something sacred is happening. You're learning to hear your own voice. You're learning that your worth isn't tied to whether people clap, respond, or understand. You're building strength in silence. And that silence, it's not abandonment, it's preparation. Because when you finally stop needing the crowd to feel whole, you become whole all by yourself. That's the foundation of your next level. That's the soil from which your real purpose will grow. Sometimes God will allow the loneliness so you can realize who you truly are. When nobody calls, when nobody checks in, when you feel forgotten, that's when you start remembering yourself. That's when you find the voice inside that says, even if they never see me, I see me. Even if they don't choose me, I choose me. You stop depending on outside confirmation and start walking in internal conviction. And listen, that shift, that's the beginning of your best stage yet, because now you're not fueled by applause, you're fueled by peace. You're not running on acceptance, you're running on assignment. Being alone in a crowd is what happens when your spirit starts to evolve beyond your environment. You start to see through the small talk. You start to feel disconnected from conversations that used to thrill you. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you've changed. You're waking up, you want more authenticity, more depth, more realness. You'd rather be alone with your thoughts than in a room full of people pretending. That's growth, that's healing, that's elevation. And when you feel that loneliness in the crowd, remember, it's not the end. It's the in-between. The bridge between who you were and who you're about to become. And let's not downplay it. It's a lonely road when you start becoming your authentic self. You lose friends. You lose comfort zones. You lose the version of yourself that once needed validation to survive. And in the process, you feel disconnected. You look around and wonder, does anyone truly understand me anymore? But that's okay, because understanding doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes God will isolate you so he can elevate you. And elevation often requires separation, not forever, but for long enough that you start to walk differently, think differently, live differently. That separation, it's a sacred space where your future is being molded. You start to realize that being alone isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's where your greatest clarity is found. In the stillness, in the quiet, in the moments when nobody's around and it's just you, your thoughts, and your God. That's where strength is born. That's where direction is downloaded. That's where the crowd no longer clouds your calling. And while it may feel like everyone's moving ahead without you, don't rush. You're not behind. You're being refined. You're not forgotten. You're being fortified. Because when your foundation is strong in solitude, you become unshakable in any storm. And something beautiful happens when you stop fearing that lonely feeling. You stop trying to fill it with distractions. You stop looking for people to fix it, and you start using it as fuel. You start asking deeper questions. You start listening to your own soul. You stop performing. You start being. And eventually you'll look back and realize that the crowd was never meant to complete you. It was never about being surrounded. It was about being centered. That emptiness taught you wholeness. That silence gave birth to strength. That ache became the catalyst for your awakening. You begin to love your own company. You begin to protect your space. You begin to realize that your peace is more valuable than being included in rooms where you don't feel seen. You stop shrinking to be accepted. You stop bending to be liked. And the loneliness that once broke you, it becomes your teacher, your mirror, your motivator. It teaches you how to be enough without applause, how to be full without a crowd, how to glow without validation. You no longer chase presence, you carry presence. And that right there is when your next chapter begins. So if you're in that space right now, surrounded but lonely, included but invisible, active but aching, don't run from it, don't numb it, don't hate it, honor it. That loneliness is not your end, it's your invitation. It's calling you to go deeper, to heal parts of yourself you've been too busy to touch, to build an identity that isn't shaped by the crowd but anchored by conviction. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. Because what's coming next isn't going to require a crowd, it's going to require you. The real you, the healed you, the whole you. And that That's exactly who you're becoming. So when you feel deeply alone in a room full of people, take heart. You're not broken. You're breaking through. You're not lost. You're being led. This feeling, as painful as it may be, is a sign, a divine signal that you are on the verge of stepping into the best, most authentic, most powerful stage of your life. And the people who will walk with you in that season, they won't need to be impressed. They'll just want to walk beside you. They'll feel like peace, not pressure. They'll feel like home. Until then, stay grounded. Stay grateful. Stay faithful. The loneliness won't last, but the version of you it's creating, that one's going to last forever. Number 5, you're being tested in ways that seem unfair. Life has a way of testing you right when you think you're finally catching your breath. You've already gone through enough pain, disappointment, betrayal. And just when it feels like you should be stepping into peace, another storm comes, another test, another unexpected blow. And you sit there asking yourself, why me? Why now? Haven't I endured enough already? You look around and it seems like people who don't even try get rewarded. People who cut corners get ahead. People who don't love like you love, sacrifice like you sacrifice, still seem to get the blessings you've been praying for. It doesn't feel fair. And you're right. It's not fair. But what's unfair to your emotions might be necessary for your elevation. See, when life tests you in unfair ways, it's not because God forgot you. It's because he's trusting you. That test isn't a punishment. It's a preparation. It's a process. Diamonds don't form in comfort. Steel isn't strengthened without fire. And you are being shaped into someone the world needs, not someone who blends in, but someone who can lead, who can carry, who can transform. And the people called to that level, they don't get ordinary tests. They get ones that hurt, ones that confuse, ones that break pride and build purpose. You might not feel strong enough to carry this, and that's okay. Because this isn't about how strong you feel. It's about what's being forged in you. God doesn't test who you were, he tests who you're becoming. You may be weeping now, but trust me, those tears are watering seeds of greatness. That job loss, that rejection, that betrayal, it didn't come to destroy you, it came to reveal you. And not the broken, tired version of you, but the real you, the powerful you, the resilient you, the version of you that doesn't settle, the version of you that walks by faith even when everything around you screams fear. Do you ever notice how the test gets the hardest right before the breakthrough? That's not a coincidence. That's divine timing. The moment before you level up is always the moment when life turns the heat all the way up. Not because you're cursed, not because you're forgotten, but because you're close. So close to something powerful that darkness tries to stop it before it arrives. You feel the weight of it, the pressure, the spiritual fatigue. You cry in silence, wipe your tears, and still show up. That's not weakness, that's what warriors do. That's what faith looks like when it's no longer pretty. It's just real. The truth is, you're not the only one being tested unfairly. Every chosen one, every purpose-driven soul, every person with an assignment bigger than themselves will go through seasons where life feels like a fight they didn't sign up for. But it's in that exact moment that you learn something about yourself. You learn that your strength isn't in never falling, it's in rising. You learn that your purpose wasn't built on applause, it was built in adversity. You discover that while life may not always feel fair, it is always intentional. Every scar, every sleepless night, every moment you held on when it would have been easier to give up, it's building your legacy. And here's the real truth. Unfair tests produce unmatched growth. You're learning to trust when there's no clarity. You're learning to walk when the path isn't lit. You're learning to love without receiving, to serve without recognition, to pray without seeing the answer right away. That's spiritual maturity. That's next level faith. That's the kind of person God can use. That's the kind of person who changes lives. Not with noise, but with presence. Because when you've been through unfair tests, you stop judging others. You start carrying grace. You start walking with compassion. You become anointed not just appointed. Now, you may be in a season right now where it feels like life is against you. People misunderstand you. Opportunities fall through. Doors close. You give your best and it still feels like it's not enough. And yet, somehow, you're still breathing, still trying, still hoping. And that alone, that's victory. Don't let the test convince you that it's your final chapter. This isn't the end. It's the refining fire before the next beginning. Your story is being rewritten with every test you endure. And while it may feel like no one sees your struggle, trust me, God sees everything. And he doesn't waste pain. There's a version of you on the other side of this test that you haven't even met yet. A version that's wiser, stronger, more focused, more courageous. But that version doesn't come without pain. It doesn't come without delay. It doesn't come without being crushed. Grapes don't become wine until they're pressed. Olives don't become oil until they're crushed. And you don't step into your divine assignment until you've been tested in the secret places, until you've cried the tears nobody knows about, until you've stayed faithful when your heart was breaking. That's where the power is born, in the pressing. So don't curse the test. Don't wish it away. It's shaping you into a vessel that can carry something greater. It's exposing the things in you that can't go with you to the next level. Fear, insecurity, doubt, pride, all of it's being burned off. So when you arrive, you're not heavy with baggage. You're free. Free to love deeper, free to lead bolder, free to walk fully in your purpose. Every unfair test is a mirror showing you who you really are when everything is stripped away. And when you pass those tests, not perfectly, but faithfully, you don't just change your own life. You change the world around you. And if you're asking, why would God allow this? Let me tell you something. God will allow what he can use. He will never let anything happen that won't serve his purpose in your life. Even when it feels like destruction, it's actually construction. He's building something bigger than comfort. He's building character. He's not trying to break you. He's trying to bless you with something too great to carry in your current form. So yes, the test feels unfair, but the reward, it's going to feel supernatural. And when it comes, you'll understand why the test had to be so hard. One day you'll look back on this season and say, I didn't understand it then, but now I see it was necessary. The tears, the trials, the delays, they weren't detours. They were divine direction. Every night you didn't sleep, every time you kept going without a sign, every time you kept believing when nothing made sense, it wasn't for nothing. It was for this, for the purpose you're about to walk in, for the person you're becoming, for the life you're about to step into. And when that moment arrives, you'll thank God for the test, even the ones that felt unfair. So hold on, keep showing up, keep praying, keep trusting, even when it doesn't feel fair, faith it anyway. Because this test, it's proof that you're being prepared for the best stage of your life. And when it finally unfolds, you won't just feel relief, you'll feel reborn. This is not the end, this is the beginning of something extraordinary. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. Keep standing even when it's not fair. Keep walking, even when it's not clear. You're almost there. And when you arrive, the world won't just see what you went through. They'll see what you were born for. Number 6, you've started seeing the value in your past pain. There comes a time when you stop asking, why did that happen to me? And you start asking, what did that teach me? And that moment right there, that shift in your spirit, is when everything begins to change. Because you're no longer living in the wound, you're living in the wisdom. That's when you know you're about to step into the best stage of your life. When the things that used to break you down now build you up. When you stop hiding your scars and start honoring them. Because those scars tell a story. And it's not a story of defeat. It's a story of survival. A story of strength. A story of divine preparation. You see, when you're going through pain, it feels senseless. It feels cruel. It feels like the universe or God has singled you out for suffering. But years later, when the dust settles and you've made it through what you never thought you could, Suddenly your pain has a voice, and it starts speaking to others. That broken heart taught you to love yourself deeper. That betrayal taught you how to trust your intuition. That rock bottom moment taught you that your faith was the only foundation that couldn't be shaken. And now when you look back, you don't just see what hurt you, you see what healed you. When you start seeing value in your past pain, it means you've stepped into maturity, spiritual maturity, emotional maturity. The kind of growth that no book, no quote, no motivational speech could ever give you. The kind of wisdom that only life can carve into your bones. You've cried tears that nobody saw. You've asked questions that had no answers. And yet, you're still here, still breathing, still moving forward. And that's not by accident, that's purpose. That's the hand of God saying, I'm not done with you yet. That pain was part of your process. And now you're beginning to understand it. You no longer resent your past, you respect it because you see now that it shaped your character. It made you more compassionate, it made you more patient. It humbled you, it refined you. And if it hadn't happened, you wouldn't be who you are today. Maybe it wasn't fair, maybe it wasn't your fault, but it was your path. And it led you somewhere better, somewhere stronger. You stopped being a victim of your history and started becoming a steward of your healing. That's transformation. That's what happens when God rewrites your pain into purpose, not by erasing it, but by redeeming it. Let's be real. Not everyone gets to this place. Some people stay bitter. Some people stay stuck in what was, but not you. You've chosen to rise. You've chosen to extract gold from what tried to bury you. You've chosen to make peace with your past, not because it was beautiful, but because you are. And you're not defined by what happened to you. You're defined by how you responded. You didn't let the pain poison you. You let it polish you. And now, you've got a power that can't be taught. A light that came from your darkest nights. A voice that carries authority because it's been through the fire. When you start seeing value in your past pain, you begin to carry yourself differently. You walk with more empathy. You speak with more depth. You don't judge people as quickly. You don't need to prove anything because your soul has been through something and it shows. You're not just surviving anymore, you're leading. And not because you have it all figured out, but because you felt deeply, lost deeply. Your pain didn't make you shallow. It made you sold them. And that's the kind of person who changes rooms without saying a word. Here's the secret no one talks about. Your pain gave you access to people's hearts, access to places you wouldn't have understood without that heartbreak, access to a level of purpose you couldn't have reached in comfort. That season of pain, it was a sacred classroom. You didn't know it then, but heaven was molding you in the fire. And now, you're the kind of person who carries healing in your presence because people don't trust perfection. They trust people who've been through something and still choose love. You've earned your oil. And that oil came at a price. You've probably had moments when you wished you could go back and change things. Maybe undo the pain, rewrite the chapter, skip the heartbreak. But now, standing here with new perspective, you realize if you erase the pain, you'd erase the power too, because every broken moment became a brick in the foundation you're standing on. And now you can say, it hurt me, but it helped me. It shook me, but it shaped me. I bled, but I built something from the bleeding. That's the truth. And it's not just your truth, it's your testimony. The best stage of your life doesn't begin when everything goes your way. It begins when you see that nothing was wasted. Every tear, every loss, every closed door, every lonely night, it all meant something. It was preparation. It was God showing you what couldn't go with you to your next level. And now you're finally ready. Ready to speak life into others. Ready to carry a peace that doesn't shake. Ready to lead not from theory, but from lived experience. That's what makes your presence different. Because it carries truth, it carries healing, it carries heaven. Let me say this, don't apologize for how long it took you to get here. Don't rush your process. Don't compare your journey. Some people look like they've got it all, but they've never wrestled with God the way you have. You've walked through shadows, you've questioned your worth, you've doubted your strength, and still, you're here. So no, you're not behind. You're becoming. And you're becoming someone who can't be shaken by small things anymore. You've already survived the big storms. Now you've got a strength the world can't steal and a peace the world didn't give. So yes, the pain was real. The struggle was long. But now you're standing on the other side with vision, with depth, with divine clarity. You've learned that the greatest gifts often come wrapped in suffering, and that God doesn't just heal you. He uses what hurt you to heal others. That's what makes your journey holy. That's what makes your story powerful. You're not just healed, you're whole. And from this place of wholeness, you're ready to walk into the best stage of your life. Not just because things are finally easier, but because you are finally stronger. Number 7, you've stopped begging and started believing. There comes a sacred shift in your life where you no longer cry out for crumbs from tables you were never meant to sit at. You no longer plead with people to see your worth, to stay in your life, or to treat you right. You've begged long enough. You've been down on your knees, not in surrender to God, but in desperation to man. And something in your spirit snapped. Not in bitterness, not in anger, but in quiet, holy authority. And from that moment on, you stopped begging and you started believing. Believing that if something had to be forced, it wasn't for you. Believing that you didn't have to chase what's already yours. Believing that you don't need permission to be powerful. See, begging comes from brokenness. It's a survival response. When your soul has been abandoned, ignored, disappointed, you start thinking love must be earned. Respect must be negotiated. But believing is born of healing. Believing is saying, I'm not asking anymore. I'm not chasing anymore. I know who I am now. It's the moment you wipe your tears and stand up with a new posture, a new mindset, a new walk, and you don't even need to explain it. Because those who once saw you on your knees won't recognize you when you start walking like royalty. You've begged for closure. You've begged for clarity. You've begged for love, for loyalty, for reciprocity. You've begged to be chosen, and it drained you. It emptied you. It convinced you that maybe you just weren't enough. But now you see your worth was never determined by someone's ability to value you. And those unanswered prayers, they weren't punishments. They were protection. You see now that what you were begging for would have broken you further. That person you begged to stay, their absence brought peace. That job you cried over, its rejection pushed you toward your true calling. That season of silence, it built your faith in ways applause never could. Begging makes you small. It shrinks your voice. It steals your authority. And the tragedy is, we often beg when we've already been blessed. We just can't see it yet. But believing is strength. Believing is stepping into the unknown without needing constant affirmation. It's walking by faith, not by sight. It's trusting that what God has for you can't be manipulated, delayed, or denied. It's knowing that no door can stay shut if heaven intends it to open. So now, you're done knocking on closed doors. You're done convincing people to see you. You're done hustling for a place in people's lives. You've stepped into belief. And that changes everything. You don't chase. Now you attract. You don't audition for love, you embody it. You don't explain your worth, you own it. That's the quiet revolution that happens when you stop begging and start believing. You start walking different. Not arrogant, not bitter, but assured, anchored. Because your belief isn't built on fantasy, it's rooted in truth. The truth that you were created with purpose, that you carry a calling, that favor follows you, that what you lost didn't diminish you, it refined you. So you stopped holding on to what's gone and you started holding on to what's coming. And now you pray differently. You don't plead, you partner. You don't ask God for scraps, you thank Him in advance for the feast. You speak as if the promise is already fulfilled. You walk as if the door is already open. That's belief. That's faith matured. That's what happens when you realize God isn't moved by desperation. He's moved by faith. So you no longer show up begging for a breakthrough. You declare it. You no longer ask people to choose you, you choose yourself. And in that shift, you find freedom. Not just from others, but from your old self. The one who didn't know just how powerful you really were. You stopped texting first and waiting for a response like it was oxygen. You stopped checking their social media, trying to decode meaning in their silence. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because when you believe in your worth, your energy becomes expensive, and not everyone deserves access. When you truly believe, you stop trying to earn love. You start expecting alignment. And that's when the right people start showing up, not because you begged, but because you believed. You stopped begging for love and you became love. You stopped begging for peace and you became peace. And when people ask what changed, you smile. Because the change wasn't external, it was internal. You got tired of feeling like a burden. You got tired of feeling like your presence was negotiable. You got tired of waiting for people to validate what God already confirmed. So now you don't explain your evolution. You just keep evolving. Quietly, boldly, consistently. You keep watering your own garden. You keep choosing your peace. You keep walking with your head high, not because life got easier, but because you got wiser. And that wisdom didn't come from comfort, it came from the fire. Let's be honest. There was a time you thought begging was love. You thought overextending yourself meant loyalty. You thought lowering your standards meant being humble. But now you see, true love doesn't make you beg. True loyalty doesn't demand your silence. True humility isn't shrinking. It's knowing your power and not needing to boast about it. And when you believe in yourself, you no longer settle. You no longer entertain inconsistency. You no longer fear rejection. Because your identity is rooted in something deeper, something unshakable, something eternal. And from that foundation, you now build your future. Believing doesn't mean you stop hoping. It just means you stop hurting yourself in the process. It means you've shifted from attachment to alignment, from people pleasing to purpose living, from survival to significance. And maybe the greatest miracle isn't that your circumstances changed, it's that you did. That you went from needing others to approve you to finally approving yourself. You broke the chains. You walked away from toxic cycles. You silenced the voices that said you'd never be enough. And now, you're not just surviving, you're rising. And that rise started the moment you stopped begging and started believing. So don't look back. Don't go back to people, places, or patterns that drained your soul. You've come too far. You've cried too much. You've healed too deep to shrink again. The next stage of your life doesn't require desperation. It requires discipline. It requires faith. It requires you to trust that what's meant for you is already making its way to you. You don't need to chase it. You just need to believe. And in that belief, you'll find peace. You'll find power. You'll find yourself fully, finally, and beautifully. Because you were never meant to beg. You were born to believe. There's a shift happening in your life right now. And maybe you can't fully explain it. You just feel it. In your silence, in your stillness, in your soul. You're no longer who you used to be. The noise, the distractions, the people who once had power over your emotions, they don't hit the same anymore. Because something in you has awakened. Something deeper, something wiser, something stronger. And if you're honest with yourself, you felt the signs, the heartbreak, the separation, the confusion, the sleepless nights. All of it wasn't just pain. It was preparation. The weight you carried wasn't punishment. It was training. You've lost things that broke your heart. You've cried tears nobody saw. You've walked through lonely seasons that almost made you give up. But you're still here, still breathing, still standing, and that's not by accident. That's evidence. That's divine proof that God isn't done with you. In fact, He's just getting started. Every rejection was redirection. Every delay was divine protection. Every loss was making space for your breakthrough. You didn't fall apart, you were falling into place. The storm didn't come to drown you, it came to baptize you into a new level of strength, purpose, and identity. And now, you're no longer begging for people to see you. You're no longer questioning your worth. You're no longer attached to what drains you. You're not chasing applause. You're craving peace. You're not asking why me anymore. You're whispering, thank you, God, I understand now. You've traded chaos for clarity. You've turned pain into purpose. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. You're no longer afraid to walk alone because you've learned that sometimes God isolates before he elevates. And when you walk with him, even your silence becomes sacred. Even your scars begin to speak. This season you're entering won't look like your past. It will feel lighter, deeper, fuller, because you're not entering it the same person. You've been pruned. You've been refined. And what's coming next doesn't require the old version of you. You've outgrown the need to prove yourself. You've detached from what's beneath your calling. You've built endurance in silence. And now you're ready to live out loud, in truth, in peace, in power. This next chapter, it's not about striving, it's about receiving. You've already done the work. The lessons were hard, the tests were real, but the transformation is undeniable. So walk boldly, love deeply, trust freely, and keep your eyes fixed on what's ahead. The best stage of your life isn't coming, it's here. And all you've been through has led to this moment. Step into it with courage, own it with grace, protect it with wisdom, and never forget, your breakthrough began the moment you stopped waiting for the world to give you permission, and you chose to believe in yourself instead. Thank you for listening. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for becoming. God bless you, protect you, and guide you through this next beautiful season of your life. The best is not behind you. It's been waiting patiently for you to arrive.